The dark geometry of power, how to hack the matrix through the forbidden parts of yourself. There is something no one tells you about real spiritual power. Not the kind that makes people admire you, not the kind that gets you followers, but the kind that makes even energy itself pause when you enter a room. The kind of raw, unshakable, multidimensional force that doesn't just shift your life, it bends timelines, warps perception, and collapses illusions. That kind of power isn't found in the light. It's not found in peace. It's not found in love and light mantras or crystal grids that keep you comfortable. That power lives in the shadow, and not just in pain, but in the parts of yourself you were taught to avoid, suppress, or fear. The parts that you were told were too much or not enough. The parts that society couldn't control, so it told you to bury.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
But here's the secret. The dark chosen ones, the real ones, don't avoid their shadow. They enter it. They mine it. They anchor themselves into it. Because they know something most people refuse to accept. The rarest powers are not on the other side of healing. They're hidden inside the parts you're still too afraid to feel. And once you understand that, the entire game of power changes. You stop trying to ascend. You start activating. You stop trying to escape the matrix. You start rewriting it from within. So today, I'm going to reveal to you 5 shadow shortcuts, 5 vortexes of raw potential that most people avoid their entire lives, but that the elite dark chosen ones intentionally enter to unlock their most dangerous spiritual gifts. These are not step-by-step rituals. These are keys, and if you use them right, they will not only change your life, they will destroy the version of you that's been pretending to be smaller than you were born to be. The first shortcut is what I call the rage portal. Most people run from anger. They suppress it. They spiritualize it. They pretend it's not there. But true rage, pure, sacred, unfiltered rage isn't just emotion. It's divine fire. It's the part of you that still remembers who you were before you were domesticated, before you were silenced, before you were broken into roles and expectations. When you suppress your rage, you suppress your boundaries. You suppress your voice. You suppress your truth. But when you learn to stand in the middle of it, not to explode, not to lash out, but to feel it fully, you unlock a power that nothing can fake. Because rage is how your soul screams when it's being disrespected. And if you can hold that fire without letting it consume you, you become a weapon of truth. Not through violence, through clarity. I remember the night I stopped being afraid of my rage. I was in the middle of a dark field, no moon, no light, just the sound of my own breath. I had been betrayed deeply, unfairly, and instead of meditating it away, I let it rise. I screamed into the night until my voice cracked. I clenched my fists until my arms shook. I didn't try to control it. I didn't try to fix it. I became one with it. And in that moment, I felt something uncoil in my spine. A primal force. An ancient current. And I knew I had just crossed into a part of myself that no one could ever manipulate again. That's what happens when you honor your rage. You become sovereign. So I ask you, what are you still afraid to feel because someone told you it wasn't spiritual? The second shortcut is the shame gate. Shame is the most insidious prison ever created. It's not just emotional, it's energetic. You carry it in your posture, in your eyes, in your silence. And the thing about shame is this: it never belongs to you. It was installed by parents, by systems, by religions, by people who couldn't handle your truth. But if you never walk into your shame, it becomes your ceiling. It dictates how deep you'll go, how loud you'll be, how much truth you'll allow yourself to speak. But here's the paradox: when you enter your shame fully, consciously, without trying to escape it, it burns away, like fog under sunlight. And what's left? Freedom. Not the kind you post about, the kind that radiates from your body. I've worked with people who carried shame so deeply they couldn't look themselves in the mirror. But the moment they stopped trying to be healed and just sat with their shame, looked at it like a long-lost child, held it like a sacred relic, their entire energy field changed. They didn't become better. They became real. And in that realness, they accessed a power that could make liars confess, systems tremble, and illusions dissolve. That's the power of shame transmuted into presence. So I ask you, what part of you are you still hiding because somewhere along the line, someone convinced you it was unworthy? The third shortcut is the silence chamber. This one is brutal because it's not about feeling. It's about not escaping. Most people are addicted to noise, even spiritual noise, constant input, podcasts, books, teachings, mantras. But silence, true silence, it's deadly because it forces you to meet the part of you that isn't performing, the part that isn't seeking, the part that just is. And that part, that's where your rarest power lives, in the stillness between thoughts, in the breath between identities, in the void that most people spend their whole life avoiding. I've sat in silence so deep, I forgot my own name. And in that forgetting, I remembered everything. Not as information, as being. When you go deep enough into silence, you don't find peace. You find presence. In presence is power. Not because it tries, but because it cannot be moved. So I ask you this: when was the last time you sat in total silence, not to get something from it, but to let it strip you bare? These are just 3 of the 5 shadow shortcuts. And already you can feel the shift inside you, the recognition, the remembering. Because these aren't tricks, they're truths. They're the hidden doors that only open when you're willing to stop performing and start feeling. And they don't require years of study. They require courage. The courage to turn toward what most people run from. The courage to become the part of you that's been buried under fear. The soul mirror and the collapse code, turning your wounds into weapons of reality shifting. There's a moment in every dark chosen one's journey when the pain becomes so familiar, so intimate, that it stops being pain and starts becoming information. Not language, not logic, but a frequency that whispers, "Look again, deeper." This is where the fourth shadow shortcut begins. The most disorienting, most haunting, and most alchemical of all, the soul mirror. Unlike the other gateways, this one doesn't open with effort. It opens with recognition. You don't find it, it finds you. You'll know it's arrived when someone enters your life and triggers you so deeply, so irrationally, so violently, that you begin to question your own sanity. That's the mirror. Not a person, not an enemy, not even a relationship. It's a portal through them, into you. Because the soul mirror is the part of your reality that reflects back exactly what you are still rejecting, denying, or fragmenting inside yourself. And here's the trap. Most people think the mirror is about the other person. It's not. It was never about them. It's about what you do with what they awaken in you. The elite dark chosen ones don't run from these mirrors. They don't try to spiritually bypass them with forgiveness scripts or manifestation mantras. They enter them. They let the mirror cut. They let it show them where they are still wearing masks. They let it expose every lie they've told themselves to feel safe. I remember the first time I faced my soul mirror. It wasn't in a temple. It wasn't during a ceremony. It was in a relationship, one that broke me in a way no enemy ever could. They knew exactly where to touch, where to twist, where to unravel me. And I hated them for it until one night, I sat in the wreckage and asked the one question that changed my life. What if they're not my punishment? What if they're my portal? That question ripped me open. Because the moment I stopped blaming them for the pain and started tracking the wound inside me that let them in, everything changed. I saw the memory. I saw the pattern. I saw the code. And that's what the soul mirror gives you, access to the root code of your reality. Once you find that, you're no longer reacting to life, you're rewriting it. But to reach that level of power, you have to stop being the victim of your reflections. You have to become the alchemist of your own frequency. So I ask you now, who is triggering you the most in your life right now? What if they are the exact mirror your soul designed to force you into your next evolution? Are you willing to look deeper? And then we come to the final shortcut. The one most never survive. The one that doesn't just challenge you, it destroys you. The collapse code. This isn't a portal you enter. It's one that opens beneath you when everything you've built, your identity, your beliefs, your relationships, your reputation begins to fall apart. And here's what the elite dark chosen ones know that others don't. Collapse is not failure. Collapse is data. It is the universe's most sacred way of telling you, this version of you cannot hold the frequency of who you are becoming. And the average person resists it. They panic. They rebuild the old structure. They beg for clarity. But the chosen ones, they sit in the rubble. They wait in the void. They let it all fall without reaching for the new too soon. Because they know the version of you that rises from the collapse will be encoded with something the old version never had: sovereignty. The collapse code is brutal, yes, but it is also efficient. It strips you of everything false in one sweep. It doesn't ask. It doesn't wait. It demands your death, not physical, but energetic. And if you can let go, if you can trust the free fall, you will access a level of power that can bend timelines, dissolve karma, and shift the rules of reality itself. There was a year in my life when everything collapsed. My work, my partnerships, my health, my identity. I lost everything I thought made me valuable. And I fought it hard. I tried to fix it. I tried to pray it away. I begged the universe for clarity, and all I got was silence. Until one day, I stopped asking why. I stopped trying to survive. I surrendered. And in that surrender, I heard it. Not a voice. Not a message. A knowing. A silent, wordless truth that said, "Now we can begin." That's the collapse code. It will not speak until you've stopped begging it to make sense. It only activates when you are empty enough to receive the new architecture of your soul. So I ask you this, what part of your life is falling apart right now that you're still trying to glue back together? What if the collapse is the sign, not the failure? What if you're not being broken, you're being rewritten? These 5 shortcuts, rage, shame, silence, the mirror, and collapse, are not just tools. They are thresholds. And once you cross them, you do not return. You become someone else. Or more accurately, you become who you were before the world told you to forget. This is not a path for the faint of heart. It is not for those who want to be liked, or followed, or celebrated. It is for those who are willing to be forged by truth. Because once you access these rare powers, once you've crossed into the shadow and returned with the codes, you no longer need permission to exist. You become the permission. You no longer seek safety. You become the structure of safety itself. And you no longer wait for the world to change. You become the disruption that forces the world to remember what it tried to forget. Now, as you sit with this, as your body vibrates with the truth of it, I want to ask you one final question. Are you ready to stop seeking power and start activating it by walking into the parts of yourself that still terrify you? Because the dark chosen ones don't just hold shadow. They become conduits for its transmutation. And the world doesn't need more light chasers. It needs dark alchemists. The ones who can walk through fire without flinching. The ones who can hold paradox without collapsing. The ones who can stand in the ruins and build a new reality from the ashes of the old. The unseen crown, how to anchor shadow power without losing your sanity, soul, or humanity. There's a silent danger that comes after you've crossed the thresholds. After you've walked through rage without exploding, sat inside shame without collapsing, drowned in silence without losing your mind, faced the mirror without projection, and let the collapse erase everything you once thought you were. That danger is not destruction. It's not darkness. It's power. Yes, power. Real, raw, unfiltered, unearned, unexplainable power. The kind that begins to move through you before you even try. The kind that makes people feel you before you enter a room. The kind that shifts energy fields without you saying a word. But here's the truth most will never be told. If you are not anchored in something deeper than your identity, this power will destroy you. because power without anchoring becomes distortion. Power without humility becomes delusion. Power without integration becomes madness. And this is why so few who touch the deepest layers of the shadow ever return whole. They become obsessed with what they can do instead of who they're becoming. They forget that the work was never about becoming a god. It was about becoming empty enough for the divine to move through without obstruction. The unseen crown is the final initiation. It's the moment where you're asked one final, brutal question. Now that you've tasted power, will you still choose presence? Because the crown that comes from shadow work is not made of gold. It's made of silence. It's made of discipline. It's made of the ability to hold immense power without ever needing to be seen using it. It's made of walking into a room and not needing to be felt, of knowing the truth and not needing to speak it, of sensing the lie and choosing not to expose it because you've transcended the need to prove that you're powerful. The crown is invisible because it is not worn on the head, it's woven into your field. And anchoring it requires more strength than any ritual, invocation, or ceremony could ever give you. So how do you anchor it? How do you step into this level of power without losing your soul? First, you must return to your body. The body is the gatekeeper, the container, in the sacred vessel. And if you do not return to it, if you do not learn to feel every inch of your nervous system with presence and care, your power will leak through your trauma. It will come out in manipulation, in seduction, in passive aggression, in spiritual arrogance masked as confidence. And that's not power. That's performance. So the first anchor is embodiment. Feeling every emotion, every sensation, every contraction in your body without bypassing it. If you cannot hold your own pain with grace, you are not ready to hold anyone else's transformation with integrity. Second, you must anchor in humility. Not the fake kind that says, "Oh, I'm just a vessel." The real kind. The kind that knows I have power and I can use it, but I choose not to unless I'm guided by something deeper than my mind. Humility means you don't need applause. You don't need validation. You don't need recognition. You don't need to be known because you are rooted in the knowing. The knowing that what you carry cannot be taken, cannot be bought, and cannot be explained. It can only be embodied. When you anchor in that kind of humility, you stop chasing outcomes. You start living as a transmission, and that's when the real magic begins. Third, you must root your power in service. Yes, I said it. Service, not servitude, not martyrdom, not giving yourself away, but holding power as a sacred responsibility, a responsibility to align reality with truth without needing credit, a responsibility to speak the unspoken when the collective is choking on silence, a responsibility to become the structure for others to remember their own sovereignty. You are not here to save anyone. You are here to become such a clear mirror of truth that others have no choice but to awaken in your presence. But you cannot do that if you're still trying to prove something. So I ask you, are you ready to let your power be in service of something bigger than your comfort, your image, or your control? Because anchoring the shadow crown is not about becoming more. It's about becoming less. Less reactive, less attached, less identified with your pain, less addicted to being seen. It's about becoming so empty that only what is real remains. That's when the crown settles on your field. Not with fanfare, not with lightning, with stillness, with a breath, with a knowing so deep that it humbles you every time you feel it. I want to be honest with you. I've watched people reach the edge of this path and turn back. Not because they weren't strong, but because they weren't willing to disappear. Because to wear the unseen crown is to live in a paradox. You become more powerful than you've ever been, and yet you need none of it. You don't need to prove it. You don't need to use it. You don't need to explain it, because you've become the field. And when you become the field, power flows through you like breath. Natural, effortless, undeniable. So here, at the end of this journey, I ask you the final question. The one that separates the seekers from the crowned. The one that will echo in your body until you answer it fully. Now that you know what you are capable of, will you still choose to be empty? Will you still choose to listen more than speak? To hold more than take? To walk silently, even though the world begs you to perform? Because this is the true mark of a dark chosen one. Not how much power you have, but how little you need to use it. Not how many awakenings you've had, but how gently you carry the truth after them. Not how loudly you shine, but how silently you disrupt false light with your presence alone. You've been given the shortcuts. You've walked the shadows. You've remembered your power. Now, let the world wonder. Let them question. Let them feel it and not understand. Because the most powerful ones are not the loudest. They are the stillest. And the crown they wear? You can't see it. But once you've felt it, you'll never forget it.